Hey guys, my name is Francisco Hernandez, and today I'm doing another video for my Behind the Shot series, which is a series that I created to basically give you guys a lot of extra information about how a shot of mine was taken. In this series, I break down how the shoot came together, show you some photos that led up to the shot that I ended up choosing, and show you exactly how I edited the shot. For today's video, I'm going to go over this shot that I took back in 2015 of a local model by the name of Lesley. Although it was 2015 and I don't have the best memory out there, I do remember posting in a local Facebook group dedicated to collaborating with other photographers, models, and makeup artists. After a couple of hours of not getting any likes or comments, I decided to be a little bit more proactive and looked at some of the photos that other photographers had posted in that group recently. And that's what led me to this awesome shot that a friend of mine had taken. Since she was part of the group, I was pretty sure that she'd be down to collaborate, so I sent her a message on Facebook asking if she wanted to take some photos soon, and she said yeah. I wanted her to have at least a little idea of how I wanted to take the photos, so I sent her these images that I took of me and my girlfriend. For those of you who are interested in the light setup, it was the Mettle 600 AD with Yongnuo triggers. I don't recommend this setup at all anymore because of all the cords that you see in the photo and the limited battery life, which is why I would use the Vagabond whenever I would use the strobe. For the modifier, I was using the Fotodiox 48-inch Octabox, which I also don't recommend because it doesn't fold up at all, and it would just be a hassle to set it up and tear it down. The Avengers C-stand is pretty much the only thing that I still highly recommend from all the gear that I used during the shoot. Around the time that I had asked Lesley if she wanted to shoot, I was working with a local photographer who was working with a local dress rental business in which he would get dresses for his photo shoots and in exchange give them photos in return. I thought that was pretty interesting, so I called them up, asked them if they wanted to collaborate together, sent them a link to my portfolio, they looked it up, and they said sure. It was not that long after I made the post that we ended up doing the shoot. I think it was either the next day or 2 days after I made the post that we ended up shooting together. Because it was last minute, we ended up choosing the dress on the morning of the shoot. And to give you guys a little insight on how things don't always go according to plan, we were actually supposed to pick the dress at around 10:30, which was a little earlier than when they opened. But when we got there, it was closed and nobody would reply to my calls or my texts, so we had to leave and come back at around 1 o'clock. Lesley tried on a black dress and a white dress, but what really stood out was the red dress that we ended up choosing. I liked it a lot because she had similar colored hair, so it kind of just really went well together. After we chose the dress, Lesley went home to do her own hair and makeup really quickly, and then we met up at the location at around 2:30. If you guys have seen my other behind the shot videos, you know that the first thing that I do when I decide a location is to look it up on Google Maps. For this specific location, I didn't need to do that because I had been there a lot of times before, but I wanted to show you guys just exactly what was going through my head. I knew that I wanted to shoot around these trees because for one, they're a lot more lively than the trees that are on the left side, and two, I knew that they were going to create a very interesting background when shooting low and aiming high. I also knew that I wanted to make use of the leading lines right here. I didn't want to move too much from this location because I really wanted to focus more on lighting and composition. So what I'm going to do now is show you guys some photos that led to the shot that I ended up choosing, but I'm not going to show you guys every single shot because that would take a while. I'm just going to show you guys some of the photos that I didn't like and explain why I didn't like them and why I made some changes that made for better photos. The shot that you're seeing on the screen right now has nice lighting, but you can see that I clearly cut off her arm. And this tree branch right here kind of gives too much separation between her body and her arm, which kind of made it seem like it was on its own. I also shot too low, which made it look like she had a double chin. This shot was also pretty low, so although I really do like the background, it's just not a flattering position for her face and her body. I ended up getting further away for a full body shot, but the dress looked kind of jumbled up like that when she was sitting down, so I had her stand up. That led to this shot, which I did like the lighting and the composition from, but the posing definitely needed to be improved. I got closer to see how the shot looked like now that she was standing up, and although I do like the dramatic look of this photo, I thought that her body looked a little too wide for this shot, and that's completely my fault. That's not to say that she looks wide or anything. It's our job as photographers to make the model look their best. I told her to shift her body towards the light, and that ended up being a lot nicer. After I took this shot, I realized that I should have asked her to move her body towards the light again, but what I learned from this shot was I liked how her hair was covering her eye, which added a little bit of mystery to the shot. You guys can clearly see that I got a little too close with this shot, so I moved back a little and ended up taking this one. But what I learned from this shot was that I needed to move the composition around a bit because I was getting the red and the blue from other things that were around in the area. I was at around eye level right here, so in the very next shot, I got lower so I can get a lot of the tree leaves filling up the background. And that's when I finally took this shot. Although I do like the lighting in the composition, I was really happy with the shot because of her expression. Good expression is something that I always aim for, but I don't always achieve. So when I took this photo, I was really happy with the lighting, the composition, and her expression. I'm going to quickly show you guys some of the other shots that I ended up taking that day, and you guys can decide for yourself whether you like them or not. This one, of course, she's blinking, but the very next shot I ended up really liking and editing as well. After I took this shot, I decided to want a lot less ambient light, which led to something like this. But of course, this shot and a couple of the other shots that you're seeing right now on the screen are a bit unflattering. But after a little bit of trial and error, I ended up with some shots that I really did like. But we're here to talk about this specific image, so I'm going to show you guys some of the adjustments that I made to this photo. This is the before and this is the after I made the adjustments, so you can see that it's not too far off. The only thing I did was add a little bit of exposure, increase the vibrance, desaturated the oranges, increased the sharpening, enabled profile corrections to correct some of the distortion from the 135, and raised the saturation on the blue primary slider. I tend to also make a couple of select adjustments, so what I did to her eyes was add a little bit of exposure and a little bit of saturation. And what I did to her hair, her face, and a little bit of her body was add a little bit of exposure. The very first step that I always do to my edits is remove some of the blemishes off the face and remove some of the distracting elements as well. For this specific shot, I felt like her flyaway hairs on the top were a little too distracting, so I removed them using the clone snap tool. For this edit, I got a little creative and decided to change the color of the background, which I did with the hue saturation layer, and adjust some of the greens and yellows. The colors weren't as vibrant as I wanted them to be, so I got a levels adjustment layer and darkened the blacks a little bit on the background, which gave me this image. I then did a round of dodge and burn, and you guys can see the dodge right here and the burn right here. For this next layer, I guess I wanted a little bit more drama, so I darkened the shadows a little bit more. And then this next layer, I guess I wanted more color, so I got another levels adjustment layer and darkened the background a little bit more. This black and white layer is just one that I have to really help me out with dodge and burn because it really highlights all the imperfections on the skin. By the way, if you guys want to see a dodge and burn tutorial, definitely give this video a like and let me know in the comment section below. This next layer was just minor and I just removed some blemishes from her skin. I also did a round of frequency separation to really make the skin nice and smooth without losing all of the texture. And with this next layer, I just fixed her eyebrow a little bit and removed some blemishes from her forehead. At this point, I felt like there was too much red tint on her skin, so I selectively desaturated it. And on this next layer, I felt like her camera left eye was a little too dark, so what I did was copy this camera right eye, paste it over this eye, and then just lowered the opacity a little bit. So this was my first initial edit, but I think after about a year after the shoot, I decided to re-edit the shot, and what it ended up with was this. What I really like about this shot was the bit of exposure that I added because I did feel like the last edit was a little too dark, and I also liked the colors in this shot a lot more. The liquefying that I did was only to make her look like how she actually looks like because like I've said in the past, the camera does add 10 pounds. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this video, but I am going to end it with a couple of other photos that I took from the shoot, so be sure to stay tuned for that. If this video was helpful in any way, be sure to hit that like button and maybe even subscribe as well because I do plan to put out an educational video every single week. Alright, take care guys, and I'll see you in the next one.